Stop scrolling. These are the best shows of 2023. Kristen here, your pop culture obsessed bestie. And if you are a fan of the Wilds or Yellow Jackets, you need to check out Class of '07. When an apocalyptic tidal wave hits during the 10-year reunion of an all-girls high school in Australia, the group has to survive on their campus while dealing with old high school drama. It stars Emily Browning. It's got a pretty diverse cast that's a lot of fun to follow. And I just love like a people stranded and trying to survive story. And this one is super funny, very fresh take, while also having like a lot of layers and character development. If you have not seen A Small Light, this is one that I highly recommend. It follows the story of Miep Gies, Otto Frank's secretary, and the unsung heroes who bravely helped hide Anne Frank's family. I don't know about you, but when I think about, Anne Frank or the Holocaust, it sounds like that was a long time ago. And the way that they told the story, I feel like just shows how relevant the story still is, but also how Miep Gies was a very modern young woman. She was going out with her friends to the bars and having fun, and she was looking for a job, and she wasn't really someone who wanted to have kids. I just thought the way that they portrayed this made the true story so accessible and relatable, and you can see how these things are still relevant right now. And Belle Powley just gives this fiercely layered performance as Miep Gies and shows how you don't have to be like the chosen one to make a difference. You can just be like a good person trying to do the right thing. An unhinged road rage incident takes over two people's lives in Netflix's Beef. Ali Wong and Steven Yeun deliver some career best performances in this as they struggle with a rage that just threatens to ruin their lives. I've never really seen a show like this before, but it's complex, funny, tragic, unpredictable, toxic. Beef will definitely keep you hooked. Our favorite redheaded killer is taking over the White House with Chucky Season 3 Part 1. With a hilarious twist, it turns out Chucky has been forsaken by Damballa and is now aging. Like, this doll has gotten decrepit. Imagine if after everything he's been through, he just dies of old age. There's plenty of campy meta humor. I think there was a little bit too many cameo appearances, but I'm excited to see where they go in part 2, which is coming out in 2024. With where they're going, Chucky has the potential to take over the whole world. Imagine if Chucky took over the body of the president. And also Brad Dourif, the voice of Chucky, is going to be physically in this season as well, which I'm excited about. I did an interview with Don Mancini where he teased that he's going to be a ghost, so I'm excited to see what that means. From is the best show you have not heard of. It follows a group of people who are stuck in a small town that they can't escape, and at night these mysterious creatures come out and try to kill them. And while that sounds terrifying enough, that's just the first layer of the horror. Are these townspeople dead? Are they trapped in limbo? Are they lost in some type of Bermuda Triangle type place? We don't know who's gonna survive, where these characters really are. I think if you're a fan of things like Lost or The OA, stuff that really makes you think, you're just gonna love this. This has to be one of my favorite shows I've ever discovered. The stakes are high, the lore, the mystery, the atmosphere. It's just so cool and so captivating the way that they set this up. Set at Godolphin University, the boys spin-off GenV follows a group of college-age supes who find themselves thrust into a competition with each other for top spots while uncovering a sinister secret at the school. GenV definitely follows in the footsteps of the boys. The blood, the guts, the sex, the chaos. It's running rampant. And I also love that they're interweaving these worlds now. You really want to watch both shows so you understand what's going on. And I love that this is a way to sort of bring in a little bit of a younger audience. I'm definitely a teen drama, teen show kind of girly, so this was right up my alley. We gotta talk about Ghosts, which follows Sam, who has the ability to see and hear ghosts thanks to a near-death experience, and her husband Jay as they run a haunted Airbnb. In season 2, we got to learn so much more about the ghosts. That's one of my favorite parts of this show, honestly, is that there's so many interesting characters. The entire ensemble is so talented, and I love getting a chance to just dive deeper into each of them individually. But they also dive into this crazy cliffhanger at the end of this season where one of the ghosts has moved on into the afterlife. And so I'm who is it? I'm hoping it's not someone that's a main cast member, just because they're so funny together. Maybe we'll even get to go and see what does it look like when one of them goes to the afterlife, what's out there. I think this is just such a wholesome and hilarious show and has one of the best ensembles on television. Another one of my absolute favorite shows of the year, hands down, Grease: Rise of the Pink Ladies. I watched this show 2 or 3 times already, and I don't do that, so that really shows how much I loved this. Set in 1954, this follows 4 fed-up students who bring out a moral panic that will change Rydell High forever, and introduces us to the founders of the Pink Ladies. From the dancing, to the vocals, to the costumes, this show was just so underrated and full of so many great Easter eggs. I'm a sucker for an Easter egg, and I did a whole video on them if you want to see, but There was just so many great connections. It has this really empowering message as these young women rebel against what's stereotypically ladylike and what people expect of them. And they just like continually show up for each other. One of the things that I was not a fan of in Grease is that Sandy changes who she is to like fit in with the Pink Ladies and the T-Birds. But this is literally about the opposite. This story cracks open a bigger, more diverse and inclusive world of Rydell. The music by hitmaker Justin Tranter, who literally put together a 30-song soundtrack of original music for this. Phenomenal. I've been listening to it on repeat. Unfortunately, the show was canceled too soon. They even took it off of Paramount Plus. So I bought the DVD. Like, that's how much I like this. I don't have DVDs for nothing. I love this show so much. You'll laugh out loud, enjoy stunning musical numbers, and see them right the wrongs of the original films in this perfect continuation of the Grease legacy that really celebrates individuality, sisterhood, and rock and roll. Paris Squad, assemble. We got to go to Paris in Heartstopper Season 2. Nick and Charlie's relationship is the heartbeat of this show, but I love that we also got to explore the rest of the cast and really see them all as an ensemble even more this season. Just like the first season, though, they stay so loyal to the source material, which I think is such a credit to Alice Oseman bringing this story to life. The show remains earnest, joyful, and wholesome, but it also brings some much-needed realism into the mix, and you get to see them worry about real things like their identities and past traumas in the future. And our Wildcats took their final bows in High School Musical, the series Season 4. This show, I just love how meta it is. It got like even more meta to the extreme. In this final season, we see them multitasking as they work to put on a production of High School Musical 3 senior year, while also being featured extras in High School Musical 4 The Reunion, filming with members of the original franchise. The show remains a strong ensemble piece. I love that the focus has shifted to the core group of Gina, Ricky, Courtney, Ashlyn, and Carlos. And Gina, played by the brilliant Sophia Wiley, is just such a superstar the whole season. I'm glad she's finally getting that recognition. They just went out with such a show-stopping bang for this final season. I'm sad to see it go, but I'm so glad we got to experience it all. If you love The Office, you gotta check out Jury Duty. This show is so wholesome, it's so funny, as it follows regular guy Ronald Gladden, who thinks he's participating in a documentary about jury duty, but the reality is the entire case is fake, and everyone around him is an actor, except for him. You even get to see James Marsden play this hilarious fictional version of himself that has gotten him nominated for awards already. And over the course of the season, they're just putting Ronald in these progressively wackier and crazier situations that he just handles with such humor and ease that, like, he sort of becomes this, like, everyday hero, and the cast becomes his found family. It's really, really very sweet. And I love the final episode. They kind of break down how they did this entire thing, because it is, like, pretty ambitious, right? There's only one person in here who doesn't know the whole thing is fake. I thought they did a great job with it. Animes are not necessarily something that I find myself drawn to, but I had to check out One Piece, the new live action version of it on Netflix, and I gotta say, I really, really loved this one. Monkey D. Luffy and his Straw Hat crew explore dangerous worlds in search of the One Piece and fight for their dreams together. It's based off of the hit Japanese manga, and it definitely lived up to the hype. Episode 2, I think, was my favorite. I loved Buggy the Clown and them showing off the different costumes and effects and the casting. This world is just so rich and wondrous that you can't help but just like want to see more and be a part of their family. It's just so wholesome that like these pirates, like, they just want to go after their dreams. I loved the second season of Schmigadoon so much more than the first. I liked the first one, but I felt like it ended so abruptly. And this season, I felt like we really got a full story. We also dived into musicals that I personally love, which is sort of like the darker, grittier musicals of the 60s and 70s. The main focuses were like Sweeney Todd, Chicago, Hair, Cabaret. But then there was a lot of like little Easter eggs for eagle-eyed theater fans like me, who are like, oh my gosh, there's Rocky Horror Picture Show. Oh, look, there's some Dreamgirls. Dove Cameron was a standout, and I gotta say, Ariana DeBose has had two of my favorite songs of this year with the soundtrack of Wish, which I just loved so much, and also Over and Done in this season of Schmigadoon, which was sort of like Dreamgirls-esque, and if you know me, I'm a Dreamgirls fanatic. Another show that I think is so underrated and just brilliantly done is The Changeling, which was on Apple TV+. In this, Lakeith Stanfield and Clark Becko play first-time parents who find themselves in a dark fairy tale odyssey through a New York City they never knew existed. And it's based off of the book by Victor LaValle. And I gotta tell you, I read the book. It's a long book, but it is so worth it. First of all, it was literally shot for shot what was written in the book, and they only give you about half of it. So there's a whole nother part of the story that we don't get to see in the series yet. I hope that we're getting a second season so we can continue it, because it was just so oh, it was just so cool and so well done and very trippy. I loved it. Keith Stanfield really anchors this project with a rich and layered take on fatherhood, and it introduces dark magical realism and disorienting truths that are as intriguing as they are frustrating. It's a stunning and complicated take on postpartum, parenthood, generational trauma, all through the eyes of Black parents. This show will just leave you captivated. Another captivating show that will just give you so much to talk about is Mike Flanagan's The Fall of the House of Usher. This is his last project under his Netflix deal. I mean, he's given us such incredible ones so far. My favorite being The Haunting of Hill House. Wow, like still talking about that to this day. But this is a gothic horror. It's almost like Succession meets Edgar Allan Poe. It centers around Roderick Usher, who's the patriarch of a billion-dollar empire, who's made his money by taking advantage of the opioid epidemic. And each episode is a reimagining of an Edgar Allan Poe story that's then weaved together that follows each of the Usher children's deaths. We get to learn exactly how each of his 6 children die and how it all ties back to some deal that he made in the 80s. The cast is full of our Flana faves, and I think the show really shines in the dark themes it explores. It really offers a lot for you to have conversations around. And like Poe did with his work, I feel like Mike Flanagan strives to do this and achieves it, which is telling a story that goes beyond the mystery and the macabre to really be a commentary on our lives. I just thought that this was a really great wrap-up to his tenure at Netflix with this hauntingly twisted cautionary tale of pride and wealth and legacy. I've been talking about the show all year, and I feel like I need to say it one more time. If you are not watching The Way Home on Hallmark Channel, you are missing out. This is so severely underrated. I know it's because it's on Hallmark that you're like, Kristen, I don't believe you. I'm telling you, this show is so good. It's a multi-generational drama focused on teenage Alice, her mom Kat, and her grandmother Dell. And these women have dealt with a lot of pain in their lives. But when Alice learns that she can time travel, it opens up a whole new slew of wounds, possibilities, as they try to heal the past. If you're a fan of time travel shows, you really need to watch this. We're time traveling to the 90s and then going back to the 1400s, you know? Like, there's a lot of lore that they're introducing here, and I feel like that's what Canadian shows do best, and this is a Canadian show. It's just like high stakes, high energy, high emotions. I just really need you guys to give this one a shot because it's so good. And finally, we got to talk about Queen Charlotte, A Bridgerton Story. This is a dark and regal origin story of the world of Bridgerton. You really get to see how the events of the past have influenced the present day ton. India Rhea Amartifio and Corey Milcreast have the most magnetic chemistry. That's one of the things that Bridgerton always gets right, the chemistry, man. It's always on fire. And while they do fall into some of the same tropes that they always do in Bridgerton, like, oh, we're not communicating, they also explore this really compelling journey of how Queen Charlotte got to where she is, being ripped from her life, kind of thrust into this royal world, and then being left isolated and confused when King George, like, doesn't want to be around her. You just really feel for this man because he loves this woman, but he's dealing with his own inner demons and mental health and is afraid that that's gonna ruin their relationship. It's by far the darkest story that we've gotten in the Bridgerton universe, but I think my favorite of all of them. Even in like the modern day ton, like people think Queen Charlotte just is out for like herself and power. They think, does she even really love King George? But in this you can see that she really loves him. She's just trying to protect him. She wants to continue his legacy. It's just so beautiful, heartfelt, dark, and emotional. Like, I really gotta give kudos to Bridgerton for really making the Regency world so much more accessible, because this is not something I probably would have watched a couple years ago, but they've made it so inclusive and relatable and, you know, brought in all that incredible music that you just can't help but fall in love with this world. Let me know what your favorite shows of the year were. Consider subscribing if you like my videos, and if you want to talk more TV and movies with me outside of the comments section, check out my Patreon at patreon.com/kmaldo. If you like this one, you can check out more of my videos right over here. See ya!